Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about, the horror of horrors, wiring diagrams. Now, before you start having heart palpitations, let me assure you, this is really not that difficult to do. Now, for me, this sheet of paper is the first thing I go to when I'm trying to diagnose an electrical issue. We're going to use the diagram to lay out and isolate a circuit and then pick it apart section by section. And then we're going to go over to our machine and diagnose a pre-existing condition on its lighting circuit to see if we can figure it out. So if you're ready, we'll dive into this. Now, when you're looking at the entire diagram, it can be a little daunting. But honestly, once you isolate each circuit or the circuit that you're wanting to look at, it's really not that complicated. They've got different sections to where you can see where the power comes in, where the grounds are, and where the connections are. Now let's take a look at the headlight circuit, which I've highlighted on this particular diagram. Starting over at the fuse, it comes in and goes directly to the switch, can make a decision in between on or off, high and low, and then just back out to the lights. Not that complicated. Now you will notice there's another connection right here that heads over to the tail light, and that'll be part of our diagnosing when we go to look to see what the machine's actually doing. Now you also notice that there were certain dots. Now when you see the wires coming through, that represents a connection inside of the wiring harness itself. Now that you can't just pull apart. That's a permanent connection, or it's supposed to be a permanent connection. Now when you come to a connector like this, it shows a junction. Now that actually means you can pull that connector apart and isolate it from the rest of the harness. Case in point, this connection right here looks like this. Now without the wiring diagram, you'd be lost. You wouldn't know what color wire is going where. But when you're armed with this information, you can trace back and see what each color wire is and where it's going and what it's supposed to be doing. Now, let's take a look at each one of the light switches, and then we'll walk through its functionality via these charts. Now, the lights are either turned on or off right here. And then you select high or low on this side. So how does that translate to how the wires are connected inside the switch? Down here, it actually shows you exactly what's going on. On the lighting switch itself, you can see battery 3, that represents the voltage coming from the fuse block. Now with the battery power coming in, with the switch turned on, you can see that it's connecting battery 3 to TL, that is your tail light, as well as HL. Now, the HL, I don't see anywhere that it says HL on the actual connection. That is because it is actually going from that switch internally over to the high and low switch. You can't see that wire, but it's making that connection over to that switch where you've got power available either to go to the low or the high filament inside of your lights up front. So we would have the switch on and then in low. So you're on, going to the tail light, coming out of the HL, which is your hot lead. You've got power available, and your low switch condition, it's connecting to the battery voltage coming from HL and sending it only to the low. You switch it to high, well, it's taking that same voltage and sending it out to the high filament. Now one side note here, there is a position where it says in with a bracket around it. That's where it's got all three connected. Now that particular switch position is not available on this particular setup. It's either low or it's high. Now my theory on this is they borrowed this chart from the automotive division, because I know, because I owned a Honda Accord a long time ago, where you could have it in the low position and then you actually pull it back for flashing, where it would connect both the high and the low elements together just momentarily. You can just ignore that in position because that condition can't exist with this particular connector. So let's say we have the following scenario. On our unit, We already checked voltage at the fuse and we know the fuse is good. So we've got power coming in. But we are not getting power out to either our high or low conditions. So what's going to happen? We can go in and look and see if we've got voltage coming in to the connector right here by unplugging it. At that point we know we've got voltage here, it's traveling through that wire all the way up until it gets to this connector. We know that it has voltage going into the switch. Now we also know that voltage is not coming out of the switch. Then the question then becomes, are both of the headlights out? Probably not. Well, you can see we also have common points for them to go to ground. Is just the ground out? Or is there a problem with the voltage coming through the switch and heading out to be available for the high and low switches? Well, that's what we can go in and pick apart now that we know which color wires to look for. So let's head over to the machine and start pulling it apart and picking it apart in real time. All right, guys, now granted, you don't need to take all your plastics off just to do the tests that I'm going to do on this machine, although I needed to take them off so you could actually see what I'm up to. First, let's verify and see what's going on with this one. Let's go through the switch functions. Our ignition on, lights on. Well, obviously not. Now let's check to see if it's high and low. All right, neither high nor low is operating. So step number one, let's step back to the back and see if we're getting power to the circuit. And at that point, we'll start breaking it down further. All right, first let's get this little access panel pulled. You can tell nobody's been in here in a while. Watch out for spiders. And what we're after is this cover right here. Under it will be our fuses. Now we'll be using a digital multimeter to do this. A couple of serious advantages. It's going to tell you more than if there's just voltage there. It's going to tell you how much voltage is there. So let's start by looking at the battery voltage. I mean, I'm sure this battery's in good shape. I mean, it starts and runs and rides like it should, but we just want to verify. All right, our voltage is at 12.28, not super great, but good enough to where we can at least test the circuit and see what's going on with it. Now you may be asking yourself, all right, which fuse do I need to look at? Well, Honda made that easy for you. That cover that we pulled off, that shows you which fuse does what circuit. Now that one to the far right, 15 amps, that's the one that's designated for the light fuse. So let's turn the unit on and see if we have voltage available at the fuse. Voltage there, and there should be the same amount on the other side. So we know our fuse is good. So next, we can go to the front of the machine and see if we have voltage available at the switch, at the connection. So let's head to the front. All right, so the wire that we're going to be interested in is going to be a black wire with a brown stripe. And that is it right there. Now there's a couple of different ways we can check this. We can go ahead and pull the connection. We find our wire, it's right there. Our ignition is on. Let's see if we've got power. There it is, we've got 12.1 volts. Now granted, it's dropped a little bit because I've had the ignition on for a while now, but there is indeed voltage coming from the fuse up to the switch. Now I have seen connections like this get corrosion on the inside of the switch. So let's verify by doing a back probe that it is indeed flowing through the connection. There's our voltage again. So it is indeed making it through the connector. Now at this point we verified that power is coming through the fuse, through the harness, up through this connector, and it is at least heading up to the switch. Now what we want to look at next is to see if there's any voltage that has been coming back through the switch and then heading out to the lights. Now there's a couple of different circuits we want to look at. First, we want to look at the high and the low to verify that there is no voltage as well. And then we also want to look at the grounding circuit and determine if that is a solid ground or not, because it would present itself the same way with both headlights not working either in the high or the low positions. Either no voltage or no ground can cause that condition. So let's look at circuit 1, which is our white wire, and we can verify there is no voltage there. Now, let's switch our beam. Now we're looking for our blue with a black stripe. Nothing there. Now, next we can go over to the connection that is going to the headlights themselves, because that is where we're going to find our ground wire. And the ground wire is not present over on this connector. It's only where it goes into the harness, sending power over to this side, which heads to the headlights. So on our ground side, that is going to be our green cable right there. So we're going to put that in ohms and set it for continuity. So when I go to a ground, it's going to show that it is a complete circuit. So let's back probe that green wire and make sure that we've got a good ground. And there it is. Now, just for fun, there could have been a problem with the harness itself. Let's verify that we don't have voltage on either the high or the low circuit for the headlights. There's nothing there. And nothing there. All right, guys, now at this point, I think we can safely say that there is a problem internal to this switch, because we verified that it has power heading to it. We've looked at the grounding circuit, all of that looks good. So it's safe to say that we can order a new switch, and that's going to take care of our problem. Let's go ahead and disconnect the old one. Plug in our new switch. Ignition on. Let's see what we have. There we go. So there's high and low. So it really was just the switch all along. Well, listen, if you need these parts or any other parts for your machine, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. Have any questions or comments about this particular video? Leave them in the section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And hey, if you like what you see, go ahead and consider hitting that subscribe and that notification bell. That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. We just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.